Oy, we don't worry about done up hair here. You know why? Because it's me time. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Stubborn and Staying. And honestly, with today's episode, I really thought I could, let's just say, get some things off my chest. So that way when I go into 2026, I'll be prepared and hopefully be better equipped to do better than I did this past year. With that in mind, cue the deep music. I really just wanted to get a little vulnerable with you guys. Get one-on-one, since you know we're gonna be here for a while with more and more episodes to come after this, so might as well get this over with now. I'm just kidding. But in all honesty, you know, I've said time and time again, this is a safe space to talk about things. And I know on my very first episode, I created a poll and I asked what you guys wanted to hear me talk about. Since I think one option was silly things and the other option was mental health. Last episode was kind of a silly episode. And I always try to include a topic in each episode where you have something to think about, even if after I proceed to talk about wacky things afterward, because I want us to be productive. You know, I want you, if you're listening to this, for instance, on your way to work, I want you to go to work with, you know, hopefully a better mindset, and I want you to be not necessarily refreshed for the day, but I want you to, like I always said, I want you to maybe feel a little bit better. Today, I wanted to just, you know, have a little rant session, have a little one-on-one, and really talk about mental health, just in whole as a general. And I feel I really wanted to, I know in the first episode I talked about my mental health vaguely, but I didn't really get into it because, you know, getting into things has always been really hard for me. Being vulnerable has always really been hard for me. I want to have a platform where I'm honest. I don't want things to seem nice and cushy all the time, because they're not. Things are really not nice and cushy for me all the time. And I don't like lying to people. I like to be an open book for everyone. If I'm being honest, 2025 was an absolute crapshoot for me. It was horrible. Did not go well. I definitely rate it a negative 10,000 out of 10. Honestly, if I'm being completely honest, my mental health hasn't been 100 since senior year of high school. And when I really started to notice it go down the crapshoot was the second half of my senior year, maybe around that Christmas. And keep in mind, I graduated high school in 2020. I was a class of 2020. So you can just imagine how that went for me. I didn't get a prom. I didn't really get the graduation that I wanted. And I only got one picture with my parents at the venue because we were on a military base and the base commander wasn't really supposed to have a big event, but he kept it kind of hush-hush. I don't really know if I was even supposed to say that. It was years ago. But it kind of just started to go down the crapshoot for me in that moment. Honestly, up until now hasn't really gotten better. I've had highs and I've had lows, definitely, and I've kept going, and you know, I haven't really complained because, you know, every day I wake up is a good day. Sometimes you do have to look and be like, wow, I'm just, you know, I'm not happy. And I don't even know how to describe 2020. 2020 was really the end of it all. I had my hush-hush graduation and I didn't get a prom. Again, though, I feel like that's very first world problems, and it's not something to really complain about, but you know, there were other things in there too. It wasn't just I didn't get a prom and, you know, I didn't really get a big graduation. I mean, one of my dogs died like I think 2 weeks before graduation. It's like most people who aren't really dog people would probably be like, you know, it's just a pet. If you have dogs or you have cats, they're family. This was like because we had 2 dogs growing up. We had one dog that was kind of like, you know, the family dog. And then when we got this dog, his name was Gus. When we got Gus, he, you know, every time I was sad, every time I felt lonely, I would always go to him. I would always snuggle with him. And same with my other dog. I would always go to her. I would snuggle with her. And, you know, just when they died, it was like a hole was in my heart. And to experience that like 2 weeks before your graduation, to walk up on that stage and everybody be like, aren't you happy? I mean, I want to be happy and I am happy, but there's still like this part of me that's just, it takes a minute to get over. And most people don't realize that. Like, there are some people who can get knocked down and recover so quickly, and I can do that. Not so much fully recover. I'm really good at hiding when I'm upset. And that was one of those moments where I was just I was hurting on the inside to walk on that stage and feel that. And then a few months before that, we had a family friend die who, she was like a third grandma to me. And that was in, like, I think a week before Christmas. And then in February, we had my aunt die, who I was also really close with. So it was like, that was like a triple shot to me right there. And I'm not saying this out of pity. I don't want your pity. I've never wanted anybody's pity. It makes me feel like crap about myself. But I say this to be open. There are times when you go through something so horrible and gut-wrenching, and you have to move forward. And it sucks, and it's horrible, and it makes you want to cry. You can't cry. You could cry for 5 minutes. It's like Medea says, cry for 5 minutes, let it all out, but then you have to keep going. You have to keep going because, especially if you lose somebody, you have to believe in your heart that that person would want you to keep going. And it's a hard thing to comprehend, and it's a hard thing to go through. And I did it. I walked across that stage. I went to college, which that was also hard for me. I went to a military college, so that whole we had to show up a week before all the, like, normal students who weren't in ROTC. We had to show up a week before them to go through what was called Frog Week. This was really like my first time away from home, and my parents at the time were stationed in Italy. So my mom and my dad could not drop me off at school. And it's not as sad as it sounds. You know, my grandparents were there. They came with me. So I still had somebody. There are people who go to school and they don't have anybody. And I always look at myself and I always say, you're so lucky to have people beyond your mom, beyond your dad. It may be very few people, but you're so lucky, because some people don't even have their mom and dad. Some people come from such shitty situations that they're completely by themselves. And while I feel sad, while I feel upset that my mother's not there, I feel upset my father's not there to see me off to college, I have to look and I have to think, there are other people who are worse off than you, and they're still moving forward and they're still happy. It's really hard to think like that and then have somebody else come to you and say, hey, you're allowed to feel sad too. Because sometimes I feel really sad, but then I also feel like this is nothing. This is something I should not be, I shouldn't be putting myself down for. I should consider myself lucky. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel upset. It's okay to feel bad about these things, because it doesn't matter what somebody else is going through. At the end of the day, you are with yourself. You are the first person you look to. You're the last person you look to. You need to make sure that you yourself are okay. And if you're not okay, you need to look at that. It doesn't matter if you look at it quietly. It doesn't matter if you go and get help. It doesn't matter if you talk to somebody. Talk to somebody. Please. But you need to take care of it somehow. You need to look at it. You need to feel it. You need to deal with it. Because if you don't look at it, if you don't feel it, if you don't deal with it, it's only going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you. And that part of you that wants to help other people so much can't help those people, because you yourself are hurting so badly. It doesn't matter what it is that hurt you. It doesn't matter if it seems like first world problems. It doesn't matter if it's the most insignificant little detail to others. What may seem like an insignificant detail to them is so big to you. And that's so important. And you don't even have to talk to them about it. If you just need to talk to yourself and say, hey, I got you. We're going to be okay. That's what I do. I have to sometimes get up in the morning and look at myself when because there have been people who made my problems seem insignificant, and I have to wake up and I have to look in the mirror and I have to say, hey, I got me. I got you. And just because they say your problem is insignificant doesn't mean it's not absolutely causing wreckage inside your mind right now, inside your heart. And I fix it by myself. I go and I talk to my mom about it. Again, very grateful that I have a mom to talk to. Most people don't even have that. I talk to her about it, and then I move on. Because while it's good to feel it in that moment and deal with it, you do need to eventually move on. I've learned that. Some things you can't get closure from, and that's okay. But after college, or after going to college, freshman year, on the outside to me, freshman year looked okay. And, I'm not blaming anybody. I'm only going to blame myself, because I didn't say anything. I didn't deal with it. That's the problem. I didn't deal with it myself. I was away from home. I lost 3 people I really cared about. Well, 2 people and a dog. And I never dealt with it. I never sat down and said, hey, let's grieve. Even if it just, takes a week or 2, let's grieve. I didn't do that. I didn't do it properly. I rushed it, and I was like, you can't cry. You can't let people see you cry. I grew up with that mentality. My mom grew up with that mentality of don't you ever let people see you cry. Go to a different room. Go lock yourself in the bathroom stall. Do what you need to do, but don't you dare stand in front of all these people and let them see your pain and let them see your vulnerability. Don't ever let them do that, because it's a big no-no. And I grew up with that mentality. And, sometimes it's okay to cry in front of people, but it's really hard for me to shake that mentality. I'll be honest. Like, I want to say I've shaken that mentality, but I haven't. I think I've done better about that. Like, if I really need to cry in that moment and I'm in front of, like, say, my friends, like, I don't go into the middle of a Walmart and just start bawling my eyes out. But if I'm talking to my friends about a deep subject, I allow myself to cry. And it takes a lot for me to shake that feeling of it's okay to cry in front of them because they're here for you. It takes me a minute to get over that feeling, and I still feel it. I feel embarrassed that I've cried in front of them. I feel like I've shown them the weakest parts of myself, and I feel like I've almost exposed myself, and it's vulnerability. That's what that is, and it's hard to transition from don't ever let them see you cry to hey, it's okay to cry in front of your close friends who are here for you. I didn't have the worst roommate my freshman year. She's a very nice girl. I have no complaints. If I did have complaints, they're personal complaints and they're no fault of her own. I'm not gonna get on here and bash people. This is not a podcast where I bully people. At the end of the day, sometimes you are like 4-year for lifers roommates, and I still have her on social media and we still talk sometimes, and we're very supportive of each other, or at least I know I'm supportive of her. I don't know if she's supportive of me. She told me congratulations when I graduated, and I'm pretty sure I told her congratulations. If I didn't, congratulations. We just, at the end of the day, she found somebody she wanted a room with, and, it was time, and that's okay. I'm not going to force somebody to stay with me. But at the end of the day, I'm really glad she did that, and I'm very thankful that she did that, because I found the woman that I know I'm going to make the godmother of my children, who's going to be their aunt, and their second aunt, because there's also my sister. But I found a second family after that. And the thing is, it was completely randomized process. I walked into the room. This is how I met her. Name is Abby. I call her my Pablo. I think I mentioned her in the first episode. I walked into the room and she was just sitting there, like taking a nap in bed. And I was like, hello. And she like shot up out of the bed and she was like, oh, hello. It was actually really funny. But oh my God. Speaking of Abby, she's texting me right now. Let me silence my phone. I always forget. And then in the background when I'm editing, you hear ping, ping, ping. It's crazy how I met her and how me leaving my freshman year roommate, who I thought was going to be my really good friend, led me to one of the best friends I've ever had in my life. She's going to listen to this and she's going to be like, that's right. I know I'm your best friend. And this is going to go straight to her head. I can already tell you. I know it. But freshman and sophomore year, not good for me. I'll be honest, just wasn't good for me. Sophomore year, I got really sick, which is crazy because the end of freshman year, I was in the best shape of my life. We had what was called AGRs, which was like running groups. I had went from A group to B group.
Hi, editing Zoe here. I meant C group to B group. I'm an idiot. Anyway.
Which was, for me, insane because I hate running. I passionately hate running. Like, you can ask anybody who knows me. I passionately hate it. I was a competitive swimmer in high school. Running is not my thing, okay? Swimming is my choice of cardio. And then, but after, I got in the best shape of my life, I got sick. I got so sick to the point I lost, I want to say almost 50 pounds in 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. And it got to the point where I lost so much weight so fast, my hair started falling out and I became severely anemic. I had to get, what is it called? Iron IV, injections. I had to do high probable iron. My hair was just falling out. And I remember I was in the shower at school and I remember clumps of my hair just started falling out. And I screamed. I physically screamed bloody murder in that shower. And I remember my roommate came running and she was like, what's wrong? And I ran out in a towel and I'm like, my hair my hair is falling out. And she's like, no. And she looked at the shower floor and there's just clumps of hair all over the floor. And she went, oh my God. And there was these bald spots in my head, and nothing like that had ever happened to me before. I had always been a genuinely healthy person, and for me to get that sick was heartbreaking, and it scared me, and it scared my mom. And to scare your mom like that, you never want to do that, because my mom has always said, like, it doesn't matter how old you are, I'm going to worry. I'm going to worry about you. I worried about you when you were born. I worry about you now. I'll worry about you in heaven after I'm dead. It worried my mom. It worried my dad. And it was horrible. It was so horrible for me to be in the best shape of my life, get out of shape. I think the worst part about it is it's the fact that it wasn't my fault. It was the idea that it was something I couldn't control. And I kept saying sorry to everyone. And my mom would always be like, why are you saying sorry? And I would be like, because I feel like I failed you. I feel like I failed Poppy. I'm supposed to be this strong girl who never cries in front of people, who is very resilient and stubborn. And in that moment, I just felt like everything was slipping away from me. Sorry. It feels like everything is slipping away from you. And that pain that I was in so much pain that when my mom would call me, again, my parents were in Italy at the time, and I'm all the way in Georgia, and it sucks that the only thing I want in that moment is my mom. Like, I'm a 20-year-old girl at this point, in college, as a sophomore, and the only thing I want is my mom. That's it. And it sucked. I was in pain, and whenever my mom and dad would call me, I would be in so much pain that I couldn't talk, and it was not fun. I remember finally my grandparents came and got me from school, and they were like, you need to go to the hospital, because I had been to the emergency room like 10 times at this point, and they were just finally like, you need to go to the hospital. And so I went, and I was just crying the whole time because they wanted to send me back to the emergency room, and I panicked because I was like, please don't send me back to the ER. Like, I can't do that. And I missed my sister's college graduation, which made me really sad because, as much as my sister and I fight, we're sisters. If you have a sister and you say you guys don't have arguments from time to time, you're wrong and you're lying. You had some form of disagreement with your sister, and that's okay. That's how siblings are. And, my sister and I, we don't fight all the time. And if anything, my sister and I are actually pretty lax with each other, in my opinion. Like, I've seen some sisters who get down and dirty with each other. My sister and I were actually, like, almost besties. But I remember I was so excited to go to that and support her, and I couldn't do that. And again, it came to that idea of, I feel guilty, even though it was something I couldn't control. And that was, like, something that was really hard for me to wrap my head around, because I missed going to see my sister graduate. And then after that, we were going to go to see my abuelita in Miami for Thanksgiving. I couldn't do that either because, again, I got sick. And it's something that really is horrible. After that, though, I think that's when because that portion right before I got sick, because I've gotten sick twice in college. Crazy to admit. I know. It's yeah. I don't know. The crazy thing about it is too, I was healthy my entire life. I'm so lucky for that. I never had any major surgeries. I never had been put under for anything. I was always so healthy. I get to college, boom. Horrible. After I got sick that first time, I never really mentally recovered from that. And, around that time, I also got into this relationship that really wasn't good for me. And I feel like at that time, I was, like I said, I was like in a daze. I don't remember much of what happened, but I just remember I got out of that daze. I had a boyfriend of like 2 months. And I'm not gonna, again, I don't have this podcast to bash people. I will never come on here and bash somebody unless it's Tamlin from A Court of Thorns and Roses. Him, I will gladly bash. But he was a good boyfriend for me for that time. But then after that, the relationship just wasn't good. and we broke up. And anytime you get broken up with by somebody, that also kills you. After he broke up with me, and it wasn't good, it wasn't nice, but I'm not gonna come on here and tell that story, because that's a story between him and I. And I will never share a story that nobody else is comfortable with me sharing. I have not talked to him in over 6 months, and there's a reason for that. And I'm not gonna break this silence just to be like, hey, can I get on here and talk about how you screwed me over? No, I'm not gonna do that. But long story short, I got a little screwed over. We eventually, months later talked about it, and we, again, amicably split on good terms. But for a while there, he really left me broken and hurt, and I resorted to alcohol. I don't really admit this often, but there was a minute there where I had a drinking problem. There would be nights where I would go out, I would get shit-faced, and I think my roommate at the time, again, Abby, this is where she comes in to be my saving grace. Abby stuck with me, and she helped me. And she helped me to the point that when this person tried to come back, she opened the door and shot him with an Orbeez gun to get him to go away, because she saw how much he hurt me. And I'll never forget that. I would do the same thing for her. But I was going out every night, I was drinking, and it wasn't good for me. And we all eventually hit rock bottom. You have to hit rock bottom at some point. I hit rock bottom one night at this little get together that some people invited me and my friend Mia to. And the day before we got invited to this get together, this person had texted me and broke no contact. And the problem is, at that point, when he wasn't talking to me, I was doing so well and so good that he came back in and everything just started rushing in. It was like a flood in my brain, and it brought up all these emotions. And being the idiota that I am, I obviously thought, yeah, of course we're gonna drink the next day. No, don't ever do that. We get there, I'm drinking, I lose track of what I'm drinking, and I'm a firm believer that we all have a good drunk cry and a good drunk breakdown at least once in our life. It's healthy. It brings you to the realization that, hey, you never need to drink like that again. Sometimes you have to learn the hard way, and I learned the hard way that night. I was crying, I was upset, and Mia was also, she was drinking, and thank the Lord for her that she is still my friend to this day, because I would have still been friends with her because I love her, and I think that's why she's still friends with me. She knew that I was struggling. And also thank the Lord for Abby, because Abby got woken up to come get me. And the next day, I realized she was mad at me, and it was that point that I was like, okay, we need to stop. We need to stop drinking for a while. We need to stop this and nip it in the bud before it gets bad. I cut off ties with him again, and I stopped drinking for a few weeks. I learned to control my liquor. I learned to control my emotions better, but it took me one really good fall to understand. And seeing your friend mad at you like that really sucks, because in that moment that you let her down. But also, it really made me realize how good my friends were to me and how much I did not want to hurt them again. I've apologized to them so much for this, but this was my uh-oh moment. When you have friends, each one of you has uh-oh moments. This was my uh-oh moment. This was my bad time. This is my time where I really needed the friends that I had. Because you have friends for a reason. And those friends, if they're really good friends, they'll be there through your worst moments. Mine were there through my worst moment. And I'm very grateful that my worst moment didn't get even worse than it was, because then I was scared I was going to lose them. And these are some really good friends that I still have to this day. And I will always be grateful for them, and I will always be grateful for that moment, because Mia, shout out to her, she quite literally fireman carried me out of that get together. It was interesting, to say the least. But after that, things went somewhat smoothly. I hit senior year. My body started to decline again. And, I graduated in December. And almost, a little over 1 year ago today. And come to find out, the beginning of that semester that I graduated, I had developed kidney stones. And with those kidney stones, a building kidney infection. And I didn't realize it because in those first few months, I didn't feel anything. It didn't hurt. It all felt normal. But I felt my body start to get more tired, which was really frustrating to me because I would be running every day. I would be exercising. And it was so frustrating that I wasn't getting any better. I was staying the same, if not getting worse. And when you're trying so hard and failing, it really does a number on you mentally. And I had my first scare where my side just started to hurt so bad. I had my roommate take me to the emergency room. We were there all day. They apparently found nothing wrong with me, even though they did a CT scan. Fast forward to my parents come to the school campus for my graduation week. We're out to dinner. After dinner, we're in the square. I vomit everywhere. My mom and dad take me back to the hotel room, and I'm saying, I'm fine. And my dad was like, no, you're not. You're going to the ER. My mom takes me to the ER. My dad calls my sister to update her on what's going on because she came from my graduation and she hadn't gotten there yet. And so my mom took me to the ER. I'm screaming in pain. And one thing that to me is really, really serious that a lot of people look at me and they're like, this isn't real. Medical PTSD. Before I get any further into the story, medical PTSD is a thing. It's real. It happens. I know because it happened to me. I've gotten over it. I've learned to deal with it better, but it's real. It happens. You go through this really bad experience. You almost die. And sometimes, I would pass by the ER that my mom took me to when I would go back to visit my friends, and my hands would start shaking on the steering wheel. I would start hyperventilating a little. I would wake up in the middle of the night. I would have night terrors. And there were so many other things involved with that. I've stopped taking melatonin because, it gives me anxiety at night. And I've stopped drinking energy drinks because energy drinks are a big portion of what gave me those kidney stones. But my mom takes me to the ER. I'm in so much pain. I'm to the point where I'm blacking out. And the doctor gets me immediately back into the room. They hook me up to two IVs, actually. They give me 3 different types of pain medications. I'm all looped out. I'm all loopy. I'm all hopped up. And, at one point I think I told the doctor that he was really good looking, which he was, but then my mom was embarrassed. She was like, Zoe, shut up. You're going to embarrass yourself. And I'm like, listen, Linda, I feel like I'm dying. Come to find out, I was dying. The doctor actually said, it's a good thing to my mom. It's a good thing you brought her in because this could have killed her because I wasn't keeping anything down. I couldn't even keep water down. And, I ended up having to be sent into emergency surgery early that next morning because we got to the ER around, I want to say 10 o'clock at night. They put me in an ambulance, send me to a hospital in Gainesville. My mom followed in my car, and she stayed with me all through the night. My mom was not leaving my side. Again, very grateful to my mom. I'm especially grateful to her because I know she was probably very scared in that moment, probably more scared than I was. And she walked up with me to the surgery prep area. She held my hand. This was my first time getting surgery too, keep in mind. My first surgery is an emergency surgery. I'm already running a fever from an infection. I'm nervous. I'm shaking. It's horrible. And my mom, she was there. She stayed at the hospital all the way through that surgery. I wake up from the surgery. I feel 10 times better. The first thing I ask was, do you have any juice? And she goes, of course. The lady gives me juice. And then the second thing I ask is, the second thing I said to this lady after she gave me the juice was, I'm so sorry, I farted. And the woman, God bless her, she was like, it's okay. That's good. We like that because that means everything's working. And normally I would say this whole situation was embarrassing for me, but it's real. It happened. And now it's funny. Then, and a few months after, not really funny to me. But I ended up staying in the hospital almost for an entire week. I had to ask for my 2 finals to be pushed back. They were more than accommodating. One teacher just passed me. She was like, listen, you don't have to worry about, because my mom had emailed all my teachers while I was in surgery, and she said, listen, this is what's happening. Bless this teacher. She was my environmental science teacher. She was just like, she does not have to worry about anything from me. Tell her to feel better, and I tell her, I said, congratulations in graduating. And I thank her so much for that. My other two, I'm pretty sure they just felt bad for me and they passed me. But anything, I was grateful. I almost didn't walk across the stage. I did. I got out of the hospital 2 days before I was supposed to walk across the graduation stage. And, you know, I was swollen because all throughout the week they were giving me the Sam's Club dose of antibiotics through an IV. And I had 2 IVs, one in each arm, and it was not fun. I remember the day before graduation, you know, I hadn't had time to go get a dress yet. My mom and Abby went with me, and we were just looking. We were in, I think, TJ Maxx looking for a dress. And I remember I would get on my went straight to the dressing room. I beelined straight from to the dressing room, and my mom and Abby were like combing the racks for dresses, and they were getting it in my normal size, and they brought them to the room, and I was trying everything on. Nothing fit because I was swollen, and I was crying, and I was like, Mom, and my mom was just stressed out because she was like, Zoe, and then so she tells Abby, go get the bigger size. They get a bigger size, you know, no big deal. And that made me cry because, you know, at that point I still had the stone in me, and it was just, the whole thing was terrible. But I walk across the stage, I'm swollen, but, you know, I got there, and the whole thing was just a surreal experience. But the year that followed after that was a lot of ups and downs. Went to Navy OCS. I ended up being sent home because my kidney did not fully recover. And they basically cut a deal with me saying, we're going to let you leave, but we're also going to allow you the opportunity to come back. It was like a special circumstance. So I'm able to go back. It just, you know, it really sucked because whenever I went through something like that, I don't give up. I've never given up. And in that moment when I said, I can't do this right now, my body is physically shutting down on me, it really hurt me mentally because, again, it was one of those things that I could not control. And I see these videos of people online saying, if you fail basic, you're a wimp or you're a bitch. It took me a long time to not look at those videos and be like, wow, I'm one of those people who's a wimp and a bitch. It took me a long time to get over that because my mom had to sit me down and say, listen, stupid, your body gave out on you. It told you you are done. You physically could not do it anymore. And that's like a big mental block I had to get over this year, is to stop blaming myself, to stop putting myself down about everything. And I'm still learning to get over that. I'm still apologizing for things that are out of my control. And it's hard. It's a hard thing to get over. It's a hard thing to get through. But sometimes you just have to realize you're okay and you're not at fault. You couldn't control it, but what you can control is what you do from here on out. I went to the gym once I got everything with my kidney taken care of. I practiced the things I needed to practice. I got my body back to a healthy state. I changed my diet to ensure I don't get kidney stones again, or I do my best to prevent that. I improved my resume. I started this podcast. I did things to build my mental up because I'm trying to get into this mindset of I can control what I do here and now. I can't control what happened then. I can't control what I went through. All I can control is how I recover from here. Overall, though, just to wrap this whole thing up, Zoe, 1 year from now, I hope 2026 was not only good to you, but I hope that you made it good for you. I hope you finally learned to just stop sitting in the negative and you controlled what you could. I hope everything goes well for you. Now a note to you guys. I hope 2026 is amazing, and I hope you guys had the best Christmas ever, and I hope you guys have the best New Year, and I hope 2026 is wonderful for you all, and I hope you guys keep coming back every Friday this year, or, you know, whenever you want to come and watch this podcast, and I hope you help me grow this into something truly amazing. Yeah, I really hope to see more from all of this in this next year, and I'm really happy that you guys decided to watch this and let me be vulnerable. But I hope everyone has a wonderful New Year's, and bye-bye.